Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us from all around the globe. Welcome to Nordic Women in Film. I'd like to welcome you on behalf of Women in Film and Television International, also known as WIFTI, and the 5 Nordic embassies in the United States, and Women in Film and Video DC. Thank you to all those partners. And this very special event tonight is hosted by the Danish Embassy in Washington, DC. My name is Wendy Mitchell. I'm a film journalist who specializes in Nordic films. I'm really thrilled to be your moderator tonight. We've got some great speakers ahead. I think we're going to have a fascinating session. Before we get started, I would love to welcome the Danish ambassador in the US, who is Lona Viborg, to say a few words. So welcome, Lona.
Thank you very much, Wendy. And thank you to WIFT International, to Women in Film and Video DC, to Smithsonian Folklife Festival, and the Nordic Film Institute, obviously, for their collaboration in organizing this event. Thank you to the moderator and speakers for being here with us today. The 5 Nordic countries, Finland, Iceland, Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, have a long tradition in promoting gender equality and a long history of doing this together. And we believe that solutions to global challenges are best found through international cooperation. This belief is evidenced by the many international organizations in which Denmark and our Nordic neighbors are active members. And one example hereof is our Denmark's current membership of the UN Human Rights Council, in which we strive for a world where women and men enjoy the same opportunities and rights in all aspects of life. Denmark has a very proud history in film and is one of the earliest film producing nations. Over the past 20 years, Danish filmmakers and actors have become in demand internationally. And women have for quite a number of years played a significant role in Danish film. And many of the blockbusters over the last 30 years have been written, directed, or produced by women. We still have work to do, though, since only 1/3 of film in Denmark right now are produced by women. But I'm proud to say that just last week, 2 Danish documentaries won prizes at the Sundance Film Festival, and one of them, about the 2018 presidential elections in Zimbabwe, was directed by a woman, Camilla Nielsen. The latest Danish Academy Award winner for the best foreign language movie was directed by Susanne Bier, who is now a prominent director of Netflix shows and movies here in the United States. The movie In a Better World also had Trine Dyrholm, our speaker today, as the lead female character. And then, of course, today's focus movie, Queen of Hearts. That film also won at the Sundance Film Festival in 2019. One specialty about Danish film and the Nordic noir, I think, is that they often do not have happy endings. And they may leave you with more questions than answers. Queen of Hearts is definitely not a feel-good movie. I will not spoil the content for those of you who haven't seen it yet, but I must say that the lead character, Anne, makes some very upsetting choices and does not behave in the way we expect her to. After watching the film, you're certainly left with a lot of questions, but you're also left with a film that you will be processing for a long time. And that's for me really the sign that this movie has a message and it touches the audience. I'm sure that we're all about to witness a very interesting talk. And I will now leave the floor to Wendy again, to Wendy, Trine, and May, and all the wonderful women on our panel this afternoon. Thank you, and over to you again, Wendy.
Thank you so much, Lona. Yeah, it's great to hear just that history of filmmaking in Denmark, and you're right, some really feminist icons have come out of that. As Lona mentioned, we're here tonight talking first about the film Queen of Hearts, and then we're going to open it up to a sort of wider discussion. But Queen of Hearts is just Such a spectacular film, one of my favorites. I hope everybody tuning in has watched the film already. If not, you can find it on various online platforms like iTunes. We'll try not to totally ruin it for those who haven't seen it, but you really must. It's a must-see, it really is. And then after we talk about Queen of Hearts, we're going to open it up and talk a little bit more about Inconvenient and Outrageous Women, also some of my favorite kinds of women. So we'll see if they're in an outrageous or inconvenient mood, but I'm really thrilled we can welcome the director of Queen of Hearts, May El-Toukhy, and the lead actress, Trine Dyrholm, both joining us from Denmark tonight.
Hi.
Hello. So wonderful to see you both. Continued congratulations about this for this film. It's a must-see. It really is. May, I'd like to start with you and just find out, where did this character or this story start with for you? You co-wrote it with Maren Louise Kane. Where did Anne start with?
So I think we've worked together for a long time, and also we went to film school together. And one of the things that we do constantly, and that Trine is also a part of, is kind of talking about articles we've read or situations we've heard of, stories we've heard, and we share those stories with each other. And I think this story came about, it had the idea have like different legs, because one of the things that we were preoccupied with, Man and I, at some point, was that we both read articles about, for example, teachers having relationship with young pupils, or stepmothers having relationship with young men, stepsons. And so what we realized reading articles like that, and in the general opinion in general, was that there was this kind of romanticized image of that kind of relationship. And so we started to discuss how come it's not considered as grave as the opposite, like a stepfather and a stepdaughter. You know exactly what to think of that, or like a male pupil and a female, or like a male teacher and a female pupil. You know exactly what to think of that. And so we started to discuss how come we created as a society this narrative that the one thing is bad and the other is not that bad. And we wanted to investigate that. And then we discussed a lot these kind of women, and wanted in a way to understand them. And I think that's kind of the core of our working collective, is that we're always attracted to stories where we don't understand a character or an action, and we want to create a story around that character in order to understand them, and in order to dive into their point of view in the world, or their place in the world.
And I should mention, if somebody is coming into this blind and hasn't seen anything about the film, Anne is a woman who has an affair with her teenage stepson. If that isn't crazy enough, she then, I don't want to spoil too much, she doesn't even behave as you might even expect after that. So she's making a lot of sort of choices that the audience might be confronted with. I mean, I think you and Trina and Maren had already worked together on Long Story Short. Is that right?
That's true, yes.
Yeah, so I mean, Trina, you already knew these writers, this director. Did they tell you about the idea first, or did you read the script first, or how did it happen for you?
At first, they told me about the idea, and they pitched kind of the character and the simple plot of it. It was at a very early stage, so you hadn't decided yet what the script was like. So it was only the pitch, but we have worked together, and I think May is one of the best directors I've worked with, and she's so talented, and the way that Maren Louise Kane and May works together is really, really, really inspiring. So I just said yes. This sounds interesting. This woman seducing her stepson. That was basically what I knew to begin with. And then they developed a lot of things, and then I was just in the loop kind of every time that you made a new version of the script or the treatment, whatever it was. I kind of just got the possibility to read it and just give notes, and I didn't write anything, but I was kind of in the loop, and I felt very grateful actually to be part of this investigation of this character.
I mean, you said that it was so, exciting to read or hear about this character at first, and you sort of immediately said yes. But, is it also slightly worrying that, gosh, audiences might not like this character, or this is quite risky for you to play, perhaps? I mean, was that on the other side of the devil on your shoulder and the angel saying, do it, don't do it? Yeah.
I have to say, of course I was a little worried about that, but not worried enough to say no to these two fantastic ladies. And what I know, the way they work, they go all the way, and they want to make it as complex as possible. And I want to go there with them. But I have to say, actually, when we opened in Sundance, I've seen the film just in the editing room, and like in a small screen, and then I saw it for the first time in Sundance, and I was so afraid that the audience would stand up and just boo at me, and we don't want to see that lady, and I because it is a special character, but yeah. I had a little fear of that, but it was also very exciting to have that fear, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, I love hearing about that trust and collaboration you all had, because I think if that wasn't there, the film wouldn't work, really. I mean, Mai, can you tell us, maybe we can embarrass her, why you thought Trina would be perfect for this role? And she was.
Yeah. So what Trina is just like, for me, she's the greatest, one of the greatest leading ladies in Europe. I think she's absolutely fantastic. And you are so versatile. You can play so many things. And Trine is also, she's struggling so much to make the right choices in order for the character to be real and to be complex and nuanced, and she's not preoccupied with at all how it seems or how it looks. There's no vanity there. There's like this tunnel vision on the character and the story, and the character's place in the story. So even though Trine did not write like physically, for me, Trine was very much a co-creator of this film, and the reason why it became what it did became, and I just couldn't see this film without her making it. So she's been very, very vital. And I think it's interesting when Trine says about our fear. The good thing about when we also had a female producer, and like that sisterhood, I think definitely we were afraid sometimes, but we were never afraid at the same time. So that meant we could always, when one came out of a screening and were like completely red on the chest and red chins and afraid of this person said this, or I saw this guy, he looked at me in a certain way, I think he finds it repulsive, or what is this? Are we kind of defending a predator? What is this? Then we could, because we were not there at the same time in the dark place, we could also help each other through that. It's been a long ride, so there were many ups and downs in that, but I think we were really like sticking together and trying to help each other through the emotions that inevitably is part of promoting a film. I think whatever film that is, you know.
Yeah, we should also give a shout out to your producer, Caroline Blanco, who was a key part of this team as well. Was there ever any pressure from people giving you money to make the film, or from distributors or festivals or anybody that said, oh, she's really, you know, not likable and she has a chance to sort of redeem herself and she doesn't? Was there ever any pressure to make the character more likable?
Yes, but the good thing is that in Denmark it's a very auteur-driven system, and we have final cut as directors. So, but of course you can still be affected by what people have to say. Also because sometimes financiers, they've promoted many hundred films in their career, and they know something about films. It's not everyone does, but some of them do, and so it's kind of taking what they say and listening, but at the same time sticking to your vision. But of course, especially the ending was something that we discussed on and on, especially with sales agents and distribution, because it's like, could you imagine that maybe it had a sign that said like 5 years later, and then maybe they hook up. I'm not saying that you should, but just like consider the thought of maybe something happens, you know, that could, but it just didn't seem right for us, also because we wanted to stay true to the tragedy of this story. And so in order to take it just as serious if the genders were reversed, we had to go there. We had to go all the way. We couldn't sugarcoat the ending and just say like, oh, it wasn't that serious, because then it's just the whole idea of the film was also to investigate power structures and kind of the power of power structures, how a strong force that can be to be in a power structural system where you don't have a voice. And so trying to sugarcoat the ending and say like, but it's not that bad, and nothing really happened, and everyone, you know, it's just not the truth. Of course, we, especially in these times, we should have hope that we can change the structures. And it's definitely not this film. Maybe you should see if
But,
you want to be, yeah.
Hope, I'm sorry that I interrupt, but hope,
yes.
I think with this film is the dialogue after the film.
Yeah.
So many people reach out. They want to discuss, they want to talk, they really think a lot about all the themes in the film. And I think that's very hopeful, because then the dialogue will continue, and hopefully we as human beings will be aware of all the dark sides and all the structures that are in our society. And also I think what is very important with this film is that and therefore the ending is very important, that it's about family structures also, that how do you, as you have talked about sometimes, how do you create a family secret, or how is it inherited into what is your legacy, basically, good and bad, and I think that's a very important theme as well in the film.
Yes. Yeah, that was also something we talked about in going back to your first question, like the making of a family secret. What are the components needed in order for a family secret to flourish? And those, you know, it's in a way, even though we are focusing on the family drama and the secrets in a family, I think the structures can be passed on to the workplace or a group of friends, and so in that way it became, I think, a much bigger story, also because it landed at a place in time where we discussed these matters, and that was also have been the most amazing experience, traveling with the film and listening to people, because there's so much room for interpretation in the film. So whenever people walk up to you and talk about their experience, they tell that I don't think people, they don't necessarily know, but sometimes they tell themselves family secrets to you because because they're putting themselves into the holes that we created for reflection in the film. So you can get very close to audience members during a Q&A and after a Q&A with this film.
Yeah, I mean, it's a film, I was saying, I saw it 2 years ago and I am still thinking about it sometimes. I just watched this TV show, A Teacher, and that made me sort of reconsider this relationship as well. I mean, Trina, you were saying at Sundance you were worried that the people were going to boo you, or I'm sure.
Well, sorry.
They cheered you, by the way, and it won an award. But have there been people who've been outraged by this woman's behavior in the film, and can you talk to them? Can you have a dialogue if people are sort of outraged by her?
I've only had a few of those people that's really were. A lot of people are angry at her at some points in the film, and they are frustrated that she's doing what and provocated, but they also understand her a long way, and then suddenly she's swift, and I have had all kinds of people, male, female, very old people, very young people, that came up to me and said, "This is so wild. I understood everything, and then I was so provocated," and it made a big impact on a lot of different people. And then I tried once to have a journalist actually that was a little provocated, and he was just screaming at me, spoiling the whole plot, and then he was like, "And it's your fault, and he couldn't kind of see through that I was the actress and not the character. He was so provocated by this character, so he kind of saw me as Anne. But it's only a few times that I've tried that actually, and I'm a little surprised of that. But most people like complex characters, even though they don't like them. I mean, it's human nature, it's life, it's we like that we don't like everything in a way.
Mai, for you, I mean, how do some people still not get it, or have you got a response for people who just don't like her?
No, but of course I've been thinking a lot about the fact that we've seen throughout film history, we have so many men that are doing stuff in movies that we don't like, and that they kill people, like in gangster movies, for example, or Godfather, for that sake. You just love these gangsters, even though they're gangsters and they're killing people and selling drugs and hit their wives and stuff like that, and you still kind of give in to them. And so it's been incredibly interesting to talk about and to kind of try to create a new language around that, especially in countries, or talking to people who are not considering their own patterns and don't see structures. So I've encountered people who want to talk so much about sympathy, for example, talking about sympathy, and this is unsympathetic, and how can you create a story about an unsympathetic woman? And so the counter question would be like, but how can you create a story about an unsympathetic man? And we've seen that all the time, and we accept it, and we don't consider it as something that says something about every man. It's a specific man in a specific situation. And so we really tried hard to create a language around the film. And Trine was also talking, because of course Trine was very much the one talking about the character. And so Trine kept saying on and on and on, it's a specific woman. It's this specific woman in a specific time in her life doing this specific thing. And we're not saying something about everyone, we're saying something about this specific woman. And so that's been like I think for me that's been quite a revelation, and I've been thinking a lot about that. A lot has happened with our view on female characters, but we're not there yet. The structures are still there, but we're working on it. You know?
Yeah, and the most important thing is when you work with the character is to invite the audience into their inner chaos so they can relate to this character even though they don't agree with the actions. And that we really talked about. What is her longing? What is her existential loneliness? And all these kind of things that is existential themes for everyone. And I don't think that you have to agree with a character's action at all. You can disagree and still understand why they are doing what they are doing somehow, or at least get a grip that she is fighting for herself and she is trying to, you know, all these kind of psychological reasons. And I think that's very important when you do complex characters. And also if we had worked with the character as more calculated and not so human, I think actually we had a problem, because then it is like a story and you take the character and lift her away from you. Now you do, with this film, you do a story that also has a myth in it, but also it has just human nature that you can touch. And I think that's very important with a film like that has so many difficult themes.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's not, she's not this sort of somebody we don't understand at all, or a sociopath or something. I mean, she has issues and maybe we don't understand all of her decisions, but we're intrigued by them and we recognize her as a person.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, sorry.
No, I just, we're going to start wrapping up of this section of our talk, but I wanted to sort of segue, but while we have May here, you mentioned it in that last bit of the discussion about, you know, why it's important to show all kinds of women on screen. And we know we need to get the power structures that allow storytellers like yourself to do that. But I guess sort of, broadly, like, why is this so important to see all kinds of complex women? Or they don't have to be complex women. That can also be a misnomer. Women. Yeah, all kinds of women. Yeah. Why do we need them on screen?
For me, at least, I realized, because I'm a mother and I'm a wife and I'm a sister and I'm a daughter and all those things. And I just realized that for me, at least, as a filmmaker, I identified like the past years that I cannot keep on only telling stories about the good mother or the good wife or the caring daughter, or like it doesn't contain enough drama and complexity to fill out a whole movie, and it's not the truth about every woman that's kind of her goal in life, and that's like the narrative that carries her through life. And I think in order to create characters that are rich enough for us to want to see them for a full movie or for a full TV series, we have to be bold and dive into female characters that has that complexity, without fear. Because as a feminist, I've been discussing this a lot with Trina and also Man when we started the project. Like, can we do this film when we at the same time really, you know, want to promote women because it's a bad woman? Yeah. But actually, I found that this is in a way true feminism, because feminism is equality, and so equal is both the good and the bad when it comes to characters. So it's both about promoting characters that has the good and the bad in them, because otherwise there's just not, I don't think, if we keep on reproducing the wives and the mothers and the daughters and the sisters, the good ones, then there's not, why would young women want to see film about those kind of women? Then they would go and see films about the men that are complex. So in order to create like a broad palette of characters, I think we have to be brave and bold as filmmakers and dare to tell stories like we do in Queen of Hearts.
That's, yeah, perfectly said. Trina, do you have anything to, it's hard to follow my.
Yeah, it's very hard.
But why we need to see,
yeah,
why we need to see all kinds of women. And do you see enough interesting women coming your way in scripts?
Do you ask me?
Yes,
yeah,
Trina,
okay.
do you see enough interesting women?
If you are looking at me. If I get a script and she's not interesting enough, then I take it as my responsibility to help to get her more interesting, if you understand, and more complex. So I think that's also your responsibility as an actress to put in things and nuances that can help the whole thing to be a little bit more complex. Of course, you need collaborations with directors that has the same interest, but if they don't have, you can also squeeze in a little bit sometimes. I have always questioned a character when I get work, and also when I work, as I film. It's because I never know what happens, and I don't know what is the right thing for this character to do, and nobody knows. So it's kind of, you do all the work and then you kind of explore this inner world of this character. And then if you have a good director as my, then you get all this, the great story, a great mise en scène, a very beautiful film, and then it all works. And that's very seldom for me. I have to say that I really think that a film succeed in that way that I think Queen of Hearts does, because the whole film works together, and I think that's very beautiful, and that made a big impact on me when I saw it the first time. And it was not like me playing in this film, or, it was characters, and it was mise en scène that really had a message. And I like that.
Oh.
I'm very proud of this film.
Yeah, I think you should both be very proud of this film. Yeah, it's 2 years since its premiere, almost exactly, probably, or a week.
Yes.
2 years and 2 weeks or something, or a week at Sundance 2 years ago. And I'm so glad we're still talking about this film, and I think we will be for many more years. I wanted to say thank you so much for joining us and talking about the film and your career. We're going to say goodbye to Mai, but we're going to get to keep Trina.
Yeah,
thank you, Mai.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Trina's going to stick with us for the long haul. Thank you.
Yeah.
I also have the pleasure to now welcome 3 other guests. So I'm going to introduce them one by one, and they're going to turn their camera on. Next up, we have the Swedish actress and producer, Sofia Helin. You will probably know her best from The Bridge. She's also done many other great projects. One big hit right now, I think, is Atlantic Crossing. She's also made projects like Mystery Road, so many more. Welcome, Sofia.
Yeah, you see me.
Yes, we see you and hear you. Wonderful.
Hi.
It's all working.
Yeah, great.
We're also going to bring on the Finnish actress and writer, Elina Knihtilä, whose new TV show is Welfare Warriors. She's been in some great films like Maria's Paradise, The Good Son, Matti, Hell for Heroes, and also Love Mila. So welcome, Elina.
Hi.
Hello, welcome. Nice to meet you all.
Yes, great to see you. And last but not least, we have an American guest who is the writer and actress Saudia Rashed, or Rashid, sorry. She has appeared in projects like Dolomite Is My Name, love that one, Swedish Dicks, Scandal, and she also hosts the podcast That One Blank Friend. So welcome, Saudia. Wow. Wonderful to see you all here. Thank you so much. I think it might be nice. I'm going to start by asking each of you a specific question or two, and then we'll sort of open it up and let you guys talk amongst each other more. And I should mention that in the first part, we didn't have audience questions, but in this part we do. I know people are joining us from all around the globe. For this fascinating discussion, Inconvenient and Outrageous Women, please type your questions into that YouTube chat, and we'll get them here and we'll answer them either at the end or as we go. So yes, audience, we would love to hear your thoughts and your questions. Sophia, I would love to start with you, just asking, Saga was this amazing character in The Bridge. Did you think she was inconvenient? What do you think about this word?
Inconvenient. Who isn't inconvenient? I feel inconvenient all the time. We're all inconvenient. Inwards. We're all. Yeah. But when it comes to her, she obviously had a disability. She couldn't read other people. So I focused more on that part, that she couldn't read other people and tried to understand other people. And with that, it comes inconveniences. But for me as an actor, that was very convenient to be her, because I could use that matter-of-fact skill that she had to make it more. I've never had so much fun with sex scenes like with Saga, because she was so matter-of-fact, and she knew exactly what she wanted and how and when and so on. So it was easy.
I still remember some of Saga's one-night stands. I love that. For those who haven't seen the show, I mean, I don't know if it was ever named, but she is somewhere on the autistic spectrum, we think. Did you have to do a lot of research to play the part, or how did you approach it?
Yeah, of course I did. It took a while before we really decided that's what she suffered from. But by then I started, of course, to research, but more tried to be like that, to try to, experience it with my senses. Yeah.
And why was that such a great role? We still talk about this character today. It still seemed quite new that we would see such a flawed heroine. I don't know if she's got flaws, but she had so much personality, I guess.
Yeah. It's very hard to say, but I know that when they wrote the series, they swapped the male and the female character. And that's a very easy way to make a character complex, of course. But then I've been thinking about it. What if we had made her more, not so, because I mean, we had her with long hair, with, leather pants and so on.
She was hot. Yeah,
that's what I mean. I mean, that's not so realistic. If she doesn't know how to be hot, she can't be hot. But if we would have chosen to do her, more not so good at being hot, that could have been, I don't know if that would have worked, but that's interesting. That would, to put a person like that in the center and just say she's super sexual, that's interesting. So maybe
it was fascinating. Yeah. Have there been a lot of other inconvenient or outrageous women that you've played in your career? Any favorites to mention?
In Mystery Road, she was inconvenient because she was greedy. She just wanted her treasure. She's an archaeologist, and I could explore that greediness within me by that character. It was, I had a lot of fun with her. For instance, but I don't have a goal to do inconvenient people. I want to explore humans in different situations.
Yeah. Great. I think we're going to come back and talk to some more about that. I would love to come to Elina next, I think. And Elina, we can see you're a hot lady, but in your latest miniseries, you're not looking quite as hot. It's a show called Welfare Warriors. It's been a hit in Finland. Can you tell us a little bit about your character, Anneli, in that show and why she is a little bit different and interesting?
Yes, it was interesting while I was listening, Trina, your about your movie, how it was created, and that because I think this television miniseries, Welfare Warriors, was created a bit same kind with the director and screenwriter Tiina Lymi, who was a very good friend of mine also, and we wanted to show a middle-aged, overweight, overstressed, middle gender leader in an organization trying to survive. While she's trying to do good things, she does only bad things, and things start to escalate. And if Saga Norén and Bridges like Nordic noir, I think this Welfare Warrior is like a Finnish Crazy Beige or something. It's very very different. It's very black, not black comedy. I would say black dramedy or something like that. But I loved Anneli's character because for us also surprisingly came that when it came out now in the beginning of January, there is a lot of females keeping up our social welfare system and our societies and doing good things, but not good things for themselves, taking care of the others, but not about themselves. And I found it with the audience that there is a lot of people who can relate themselves to this character. And also one thing I liked it was a leading role, but we don't know anything about her private life. So it's a very rare female role because nobody knows anything about her. We don't see her home. We don't know anything about her family. We know only that her mother has a dementia or something, but that's all. So it was really interesting. And also because I have been working in an organization myself last 7 years, I have been professor in acting in University of Arts Helsinki, and I have been struggling between the administration, academic administration work, and with the students level. So it was really easy to act all my frustration of that academic shit. I can use that word. So I really much enjoyed acting her.
Yeah, and it seems like the audience is really connecting with her as well. Yeah. And what other sort of difficult women have you enjoyed playing in your career, Elina?
Well, if it comes to films, I think Saida Bergroth's A Good Son is one of my favorite roles. She's I'm the female lead character, and I'm an actress mother who is very narcissistic, and it's a little bit like Thriller or something like that, but I still miss the character. When sometimes it happens that you start to miss the character you have played, she is the one I miss.
Yeah. We should mention Zaida was here on this series last week talking about Tova, which is another great film of hers. So yeah, go check out her film The Good Son and see Elina too. Saudia, I would love to bring you in now. Just wondering if you are sort of happy with the kinds of roles that you're offered as an actress. I know you wear many hats, but as an actress, are you offered enough interesting, difficult women? Do you think it's even harder to find these kind of parts as a woman of color?
Number one, no. I am not offered enough of those roles. I actually have never had the opportunity to play, I would say, either an Inconvenient or Outrageous Woman yet, outside of anything I've created on my own. And I would say it is definitely much harder as a woman of color in the United States, getting those type of roles. And I think it's a two-parter. One, I think we are just coming into this idea in general of women being able to play these type of roles that are a little non-linear and more layered. But also, I think now it's evolving into, well, how can we make those roles more expansive and give insight into more marginalized communities and people who otherwise would not have been seen in this particular light. And I feel like in that space, there's a bit of a struggle, because a lot of times, as people of color, when you don't have a lot of opportunities, you always want to put the most positive, and you want to give strength and give light and give focus to stories that that are a little bit more positive, into that realm. But also, I think what happens is that we tend to not realize that, well, that really limits the type of stories we have, because everybody's story is conflicted and convoluted. And I think now we are in this space right now in Hollywood where people are really open to the idea of putting more people of color into these type of roles that are that they typically wouldn't be seen in. Like for me as an actress, a lot of the things that I have auditioned for or have been in, they're very linear, and they're also a lot of roles that tend to hold up and give more perspective to the protagonist, like a lawyer or a psychiatrist that's kind of giving and propping up the idea of who this character is and how they should evolve. And what tends to happen is that the character that I'm playing is great and it's wonderful, but it's also very flat and there's no life to it. And so I'm really excited to now get more opportunities where I can be in films and audition into things where they're a little bit more worldly and complicated.
And I love that you mention, the roles that you haven't created, because you're also a writer. So I'm wondering, with your writing hat on, is this something you think about a lot, that you want to write parts for inconvenient women?
Oh, absolutely. I think that I'm drawn to that because when you don't see it and when you don't get to explore that creatively as an actress, then you are thirsty for the idea of, well, how can I generate that on my own? So I think a lot of my writing has been trying to answer that question. How can I develop that type of woman, but also how can it be realistic and grounded, and how can people relate to it? So I think those are the things in the writing world that I am, trying to figure out, because those are the things that I want to play. And those are the things I want to see, when I see other actresses, those are the roles that I am drawn to, the type of performances that I'm drawn to.
Thank you. Trina, we've already talked about some of this a little bit. We talked about Anna and Queen of Hearts. I know you're getting ready to play this, I think, 14th or 15th century Queen Margaret, Queen of the North. I know this film people won't be able to see until at least the end of this year, maybe later. Can you tell us anything about her? She's not sort of a fairy princess type of queen, is she?
Well, she was also a very complex character. I can't talk so much about that film because it will be released maybe in this autumn. We did it. It was shot in Czech Republic, and we did it throughout the Corona times, and we had a lockdown in the middle of the film. But of course, she made a big union of the the whole North, but she needed a son to be in power, because you couldn't be in power as a woman. And I find it very interesting that she was called Margaret the First, and now we have Margaret the Second. And that is like many hundred years ago, and we had like 10 Christians and Fredericks in between. But it's a very interesting project, and I'm looking very much forward. It is Charlotte Seeling that made the bridge with you, Sophia.
Yes.
That is the director. And but I have actually I've done a lot of weird women.
Yes, weird women. Tell us more of your weird women and what have been some
or
of your
complex characters, or what you call it. I did a film called Nico, and it's about Nico that was a singer in the Velvet Underground before she went solo, and she was really not a likable character, and that was so fun for me to get into that character, because she didn't want to be beautiful. She started out as a model, and then the tagline in our film is like, I wasn't happy when I was beautiful. Now I kind of need to be me. And she has to talk about Velvet Underground and all these kind of things, and Andy Warhol. But it's 20 years ago that she was there. And she's kind of fighting for her own career. And it was really an interesting project with an Italian director called Susanne Nicchiarelli. And we had a great collaboration as well. And that is what I wanted to say, that I've been quite privileged actually I've worked with a lot of female directors many times, and I have been invited into the creative room. So I'm not a writer, but I have been invited in to co-create also with male directors. It's not only women, but and I feel that as a big privilege, but also a responsibility that I feel as an actress, that I want to be part of the creating of the character, and I want to question all the time. I don't like character that is black and white, and there is always a question you can ask, and there is always the opposite you can explore. And I find that very interesting, and that's just the way I work. That if I don't have to understand a director's vision totally, but I just have to understand what are you searching for, and then I can help searching. And that is what it's all about. It's about exploring, searching, finding out. Also, when we're shooting, we never know what happens, and I love that as a motto. I have that every time it says action, then I trick my brain and I say to myself, I don't know what happens now. And then you kind of go out there with this character, and even though she is just a mother, she suddenly shows her longing and her need for taking this and banging it into the whatever. I mean, I don't know if you understand what I mean. I'm just trying to say that I have always thought that it was also my responsibility to put in things in the character. And then I have had the privilege to meet people that invited me in to begin with. So I have been educated also in commenting on scripts and all these kind of things. So I'm not afraid to ask questions and well, I think a character can do anything. There isn't something that is, this is not my character, she can't do that. Of course she can, but how does it look if she's not good at this or whatever? So for me, it's very important that we also, as actresses, help each other to make it complex. as you said, Saudia, as well, that you can do it when you write, and of course I know that because there is a big lack of representation in our community or brands. I don't know the word for that, but in our business, and we just have to be better, everyone, that not be so narrowed in colors and in gender and in how is a character. And I just really think that we have to take on the responsibility, all of us, to put it in there together.
Yeah. I like this rallying cry. Saudia, do you have a response to that, or have you felt part of this collaborative process a lot, or more? Do we need more?
I think I'm starting to, and I love the idea of, I think it's diminished a lot that the idea is to co-create. When you are creating a film, as an actress, we're not just given these words and do them as rote. We are the interpreter of the words and of the world. And if we can come to a place where we really get into the same place where we can explore different avenues together to get to this we. And I think that's the great thing now. I think there is a rebirth, perhaps, of this idea of like everybody is co-creating together. Like, it's not just about I show up to set and I do my job and I leave. It's about how can we elevate this film to the best of its ability. So yeah, I think that rallying cry of, we are all in it together, I think that needs to be reiterated every time there's a project. Every time you're involved in a project, you have to think of, how can I elevate this for a greater good, and what is my part in doing that?
And Sophia, I'd love to come to you just to find out, does it feel like things are changing in this industry, that we're getting more interesting parts for women in general? Does it feel like there's progress to you?
Both. I mean, when I did this archaeologist, it just said woman 30 to 60. But then recently I got something, I was asked to do a self-tape, but it was people involved that I couldn't resist trying to get to work with. But still, the first sentence about the woman was strikingly beautiful 40, but I'm soon to be 50. Can I please? So I think it's both. I mean, we can't expect everything to change immediately. And I think we can learn a lot from each other too, when it comes to that. And when it comes to diversity in general, I see, when I see American and English films and TV series, I see that you had made progress much more than we have in Sweden. At least we're still beginning to try. But I don't know if that was an answer.
No, I think it was. Elina, do you feel like things are things changing in Finland, or the kinds of roles you're being offered? How does that feel for you?
Well, I'm very privileged of the fact that I work with the young people in Theatre Academy, and also we do cooperation with the Film Academy in Finland. So I'm very idealistic about the future, because I feel that the young filmmakers, young actors, young playwrights, screenwriters, they feel a lot of responsibility about the representation questions. So they are very aware of the thing that fiction also creates reality, and they are more aware of their own point of view and their privileges more than I think people of my age have been as a filmmakers or as an artist or theater makers or actors. So I put my trust on the young people and young generation, and I think we older can also learn a lot from them. So I'm very idealistic.
I totally agree about that. I really feel that the new generation has a lot of new structures that we can learn from.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about age in a different way, actually. And Sophia brought it up, she's been offered a part for somebody who's about to turn 40. Especially as actresses get older, do you see the interesting parts dry up and you're just playing the mother or eventually the grandmother? Not yet, anybody, I know. But do we see enough interesting older women on screen? What can we do to let executives know we want to see that? I want to see more of that.
You have to, can I say something?
Yes, please.
2 things, just remind them that that's a very big audience.
Yeah.
Can give you money, but also to show the new perspective that, we can retell the entire history just by changing the perspective, and that will give you completely different answers. So there is no limit for new stories with female center figures. But I think I think it's because I've been playing Saga for so many years, I also started getting interested in not, it's been such a, always when you want to put a woman in the center, she has to be strong or complex or hard or sexy or, something that is extreme. But then it interests me to put a woman, from like 40s, that I tried to do that in this Atlantic crossing, to put a woman in center that is not strong, that is not, free, that is very stuck in a very formal role and with a very pleasant manner, and, try to see how you can push her through the story, even though she's so narrow, she has such a narrow space to move in. And that can also be a complex role. So I think there's no limit. We just have to remind them that the audience is there, the money is there, and we're ready.
Yeah, and we just make them interesting.
Yeah.
Because they don't know what they get.
I can tell you example from Finland, because a young female director and actor made a movie which became on last January to the premiere in Finland, just before the COVID started. So there's it's a comedy where the main characters are all 3 fabulous female actors from Finland, over 75 years, and it was a box office hit when it came. So it's like we need different kind of characters from different ages, and I have always tried to tell to my producer friends that, come on, when I look, if I go to the gym and I see those older ladies, they are so active, they are like, they have money, they have time, they use culture, they use their monies for the culture. So I think they also earn stories about themselves, not only about their like angry sons or or young boys. They need stories about their lives also.
Yeah. And for me, I like, I don't just want to see older women or men playing like the funny granny who does a bank heist or whatever. I think it was called The Good Liar with Helen Mirren and Ian McKellen a few years ago. And her character was so like sort of sharp and conniving and sexy. She was allowed to be sexy at her age. And I thought that was really important, because that showed a sort of reality that I think we don't see enough. Any sort of recent roles for older women that you've all admired? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I just, we had a very big star. She worked with Ingmar Bergman, for instance, in Fanny Alexander, and she recently died at the age of 80. And I saw a film that I think it won an Emmy back then. It was in the 90s, where she was played a widow. I think she was like 65 at that time. She plays a widow who just breaks free and starts having dozens of lovers. It was, and I started thinking we were there, but what happened? Because that was 25 years ago or something. So it's called The Tattooed Widow. It's called.
Okay, everybody, The Tattooed Widow. I'm going to check that one out.
Check it out. It was very good.
Yeah, I'm starting to get some great questions coming in from the audience, so I'll start with a few of those. I'm curious, I think we may have lost Saudia, but she'll come back. Somebody is asking, are there inconvenient women in real life who inspire you? I mean, I'm inspired by people, you know, Hillary Clinton was inconvenient to some people, wasn't she? And AOC has been inconvenient in Washington and making a great difference. Those are kinds of the women that spring to mind to me. But
isn't it interesting? I mean, just to see how narrow the space is for an official woman to act on. It's such a small space. I remember Hillary Clinton telling in the documentary about her, you know, at the campaign, the amount of time I had to spend in that chair, makeup chair, every day, where I could have been campaigning, preparing, you know, everything. So, I mean, of course, she was, to me, she wasn't inconvenient. Yeah. I haven't seen really inconvenient women in the public eye that has been, you know, lifted. Not that I can think of.
Yeah, we need more of them. Elina, can you think of some inconvenient women?
Yes, I think our former president, Tarja Halonen, she was just great because she didn't care about how she looks or nothing like that. And she was really near people all the time. But some of the people were thinking that she's an angry old lady because of her behaving. If she would have been, if there had been a male president, he would be a strong leader and has his own style how he leads. But as a female leader, you have to be certain kind. Not anymore so much. Now we have this very young prime minister who is actually, I love her style and how she runs our government. But I think we needed Tarja Halonen before this was possible. This female government.
Saudia, are there inconvenient women in real life who you're admiring right now?
Well, I would say in real life, the first person that comes to mind is our new Vice President, Kamala Harris.
Yes.
I think, you know, as her being both Black and East Asian, and being in this space where it's predominantly white male oriented, to see her command and hold her space and hold her integrity within that world, I think it's just really, it's really inspiring. And it really shows that I think, you know, women can, there's this idea that if you are soft, then you can't have control. If you know, and I think that's what's the interesting thing about her is that, you know, she has this soft spokenness about her, but there's also something about her that is very commanding. And it shows the duality of, you know, people and of women. And, you know, those are the type of things that I think in film and in TV, we want to see more of. We want to see women who don't have to be just this one thing and ascribe to this one idea, that you can be a little of both. And because of that, you know, it makes that character a lot more complicated. So as a real person, I just find her fascinating and beautiful, and you know, and extremely just, I love her. I want to meet you, Kamala.
Yeah, but can I ask something? Can I ask
Sophia.
something? Yeah, but I love her too. I am so happy for you. Congratulations, America, for that person. But in what way is she inconvenient? I just see her. She's just lovely, wonderful, and yeah. I mean, I don't want to bring up names, but I can think of so many male leaders who have a behavior that I could never imagine a woman would be let to come through with. So I mean, I can't see anything that is inconvenient with her.
Well, I think that's the interesting thing, and the interesting thing about the label inconvenient. I think that inconvenient is, you know, sort of this patriarchal element that's put on women, and most of the time we actually aren't inconvenient. And I think that was what's interesting about Kamala is that you're right, Sophia, like she really isn't inconvenient, but I think she's seen as being inconvenient for the world she has had to navigate, you know, being an attorney general, being in these very powerful, you know, male-oriented society and political society, and being able to navigate it and navigate it well. For a lot of people looking from the outside in who may not relate to her, they think that it's inconvenient. And, you know, I think men have a very different idea of what inconvenient is as opposed to women. So when I choose her as being an inconvenient woman, I choose her from the perspective of men thinking that she's inconvenient, but really she's not. She's a role model, and she's a role model because of how she has navigated this particular world and how she has maintained, you know, she hasn't had to completely change herself for that.
Yeah, I think it's really, I'm really glad you brought up this sort of the importance of the language of, you know, who is inconvenient, who's calling who inconvenient. I think the sort of status quo of DC would say maybe she's inconvenient to them, or Hillary was, or whatever. But yeah, as women who fully embrace and support her career, we don't label her that way, but we can see how she might be. Yeah, it's a minefield getting the language right, even. Somebody else from the audience is asking, and this is a big one, but what would you say yes to for a character? And is there something you would just immediately say, no, I'm not doing that? Trina, can we come back to you? That's a hard one. Is it a gut feeling?
No, I don't think it's a hard one. For me, I say yes to the people I work with. And if I say yes to them, I kind of go all the ways. I don't have a no if there is an artistic reason. Of course, I don't want to do things without a reason. But if it's talented people and we can discuss the artistic choice, then I don't have so many limits, actually. And I think it's very important to leave your vanity outside of the shooting and not bring it on set. And I think it's very important also to bring the political voice outside of the set, because it makes you creative in another way, and it doesn't censor. It doesn't censure. No, censor. And then we can be political and all these kind of things afterwards when we discuss the film and all these kind of things. I think it's very important to be as free as you can creatively while you're working. But of course it needs trust, and it needs people around you that you do it together with, you collaborate in a good way with. Yeah.
Great. Sophia, what makes you say yes or no to a role or a project?
Yeah, I go from my gut feeling, and of course also that I want to spend time with the people, as Trina says. But I think no, I don't have any principles, you know, like no, it's just
like I won't do this. Yeah.
No, I don't.
If you trust the people, I can see you, it might open all kinds of doors
Yeah.
you might not think at first. Yeah.
And I also agree with, and I'm very grateful for having that opportunity too, that Trina described earlier, to be able to be a part of developing things is also a possibility to help each other to make it more interesting. But sometimes you go into projects and you can't help, you can't do it. But no, so I don't have any limits like that. I wouldn't do real intercourse scenes. No, thank you. That's kind of it. That's,
okay. Yeah. Elina, what do you say yes or no to?
Well, I follow Trina and Sophia here because it's about the. I always aim for artistic freedom while working, and to feel yourself free in an artistic process. You have to trust the people who are around you, and it have to feel safe. But it have to feel safe to research for dangerous things in a way. So it's and there is always a space also for conflict, I think, in the working with the right people. But I want to research dangerous things, but safely, in a safe environment, on that sense.
Yeah.
And Saudia, what about you? Did you?
You know, echoing what everybody else said, you know, definitely you want a safe environment. You want to feel like you can be open to explore. But I would say the initial thing that makes me want to play a character is reading something and having a mixture of excitement, but fear. The excitement of, oh, this could be great. And also the fear of like, oh, but that one component, that could be tricky, or that I have yet to figure that out. And then it's kind of like putting together this, you know, finding the missing piece of the puzzle. So I would say that one particular element is what I look for, in addition to being surrounded by creatives that are going to make you feel safe when you are doing that sort of exploration.
Trina, did I cut you off? Did you?
No.
Gosh, some more good questions coming in. I have a question that could be seen as silly, but I'm actually curious in real life. Is it more fun and enjoyable to play a bad girl than to play the good girl? Or can the good girl be fun to play? Saudia, you're smiling.
I would say generally, I think it is more fun to play the bad girl. But I think what's interesting is that when you look at both of those ideas, there's this really pervasive idea with good girls of that, the good girl going bad. This idea that there's a seed in them and they may go in this direction. And I think really a bad girl is just kind of like the reverse, a lot of times the reverse engineering of it. And so for me, I think it's fun because it's opposite of what we see. But I also think a good girl can be a lot of fun, because I think there's this idea you can play with of the good girl, what is really defining what a good girl is. And so you can kind of skew that line a little bit. And I think that's what could be fun about playing a good girl. But I would say overall, it's, for me, it's definitely more fun to play a bad girl.
Well,
Trina,
I like to play both sides, I have to say. I did a film once called Love is All You Need by Susanne Bier with Pierce Brosnan. It's a romantic comedy, and I'm playing a very good girl, actually, that has breast cancer, and she suffers from a lot of things, and she falls in love with this guy, and she is a good character. She's very a nice character. and I just loved playing her. It was a little provocating for me to be in a lemon grove in a red dress, dancing with my shoes in the hand.
Happy.
I was like, for real? Is she doing this for real? So I'm a little in private life. I'm a little bit more cynical, but so that for me was a big challenge to play this good girl in a way, and this way of seeing life, and I really loved that. But of course, I had a lot of fun playing tough bad girls as well. Yeah. It is fun.
I like that. It's okay to be the good girl and the nice woman and the happy woman and the red dress too. We need that as well in life, don't we?
Especially if you get Piers in the end.
Yes. Oh. I'm curious. This is a question from the audience, and it's a really good one, but it's might take you a second to think about. This is a question from Deborah Brozina. She's wondering, if you could go back into history, sort of what time period would you especially like to see from a woman's perspective? And a sort of second part to that is, is there like a dream role that could be playing like a historical woman that we've never seen on screen before, given her glory finally? Does anybody have any thoughts on how we can look at historical women a bit differently?
Well, I'm very happy that I got the chance to play this Margaret the First, and that is a very important, powerful woman that made a big impact on history. But there hasn't been a lot of writing about her. Of course, she had a book and stuff, but not because it was in 1387 that she made the Kalmar Union, and so long ago, so you never know what happened. But a woman in charge at that time, that is really interesting. And then of course, I also, as you said, Sophia, you look at history one more time and you see it from another perspective, and you just realize that there was this also this film called The Wife that Glenn Close did, that the wife that just stands there beside the man that gets the Nobel Prize, and she's actually writing the story and all these kind of things. And that the same goes with history. Now we read the history books, and I have a new project. I can't talk about it, but that's also a very interesting Danish character some 100 years ago, and a very complex character. So I think right now everybody's digging in to the story, the history books, and trying to find out these women that didn't get a fulfilled scenery, and we want to see them, and we want to tell their stories. I think there are lots of women.
Yeah, Sophia, I love that point you made. We could just go back at any point in time and tell it from the woman's perspective, and there you've got a new story, Yeah,
you can just use the Shakespeare's plays and just swap it around a bit.
Yeah. Do you have any dream historical figure you would like to play, Sophia?
Not that I can think of now, but as I said, it won't be hard to find.
Yeah. Saudia, do you have one?
I don't have one, but I love that idea, Sophia, of looking at history, and I think that often we don't, which is interesting because there are so many historical women that can really be mined. And just the idea that, if we think, hundreds and thousands of years ago, the lifespans of people were so short, but their lives were very dense. And really, it can really give you perspective on, the cultural norms that were going on in that time, and also how in that short span within their life that they navigated that. So I think it's a good mirror to also relate to characters that we play currently, and how we can make them rich within within that window of shooting a film. as opposed to someone's entire life that may have lived until they were 45, but literally lived like 20 lifetimes within then. So I don't have one particular character right now, historical character, but that definitely intrigues me.
Yeah. Elina, do you have one?
Yeah, well, I have many. I have too many, but I have at the moment I have one dream, but I don't dare to say it, so I will lose. It's a bit, but it's about the Vikings time, but from the female perspective on that time. But then I want to come back to this, and then I have had the opportunity to act Shakespeare Macbeth. So I aim to do every king role of Shakespeare since I'm living so long I'm living, but actually this question about good girl and bad girl, I want to come back to that issue because before 10 years ago I would have said that the bad girl, and actually I don't want to play the bad girl, I want to play Tony Montana from Scarface or something like that, but at the moment I aim about the role of princess, and that's here is Princess Victoria from Sweden. And I think it would be really interesting to see me as a princess, as a very good princess, maybe Princess of Sweden or something. It would be interesting.
Okay, I'm sure there's a casting director watching this right now. So princess roles to Elina.
They are doing a series about the Swedish royal house.
What?
They are doing a series about the Swedish royal house.
But they lost Elina. That's not good. Actually,
we can get you in there, don't worry.
But I would love to play Marlene Dietrich, but in her late days, after the war, when she comes when she's going around with her variety show and stuff, I would love to do that. I could have a little German accent, you know, so
maybe
I just came to think of a character that I really want, that because I happened to see a documentary about Greta Garbo the other day. Then I started Googling and I found a self-tape or an audition that she did when she was like 45, 47 or something. It broke my heart. Maybe I want to do that, because I mean, how can you put the great Greta Garbo to do just her task in that audition was, we have to see if you still have that star quality, and she started the whole session by doing this. Yeah, maybe that's a part. It would be interesting.
Garbo would be great.
What was she up there in New York in her apartment? What did she do all by herself?
That's a very interesting story.
Yeah.
She didn't dare to go out.
Yeah.
And when she did, it was like...
There was a wonderful film a few years ago called Film Stars Don't Die in Liverpool about Gloria Graham and some of her final days. It was also just wonderful and really fascinating. She was another inconvenient to some woman, inspiration to others. I think sad that we have to wrap because of time, but I've so enjoyed this conversation. It's been wonderful. Yeah, if somebody calls you inconvenient, you can either take it or not. Inconvenient can be inspiring. You know, I think we've really had some interesting conversation tonight. Thank you so much to Sophia, Saudia, Elina, and Trina, and to May earlier. I want to also thank the Danish ambassador, Lona, who kicked us off. Thanks for the Danish embassy. Thanks to Wendy. Thanks to the Nordic embassies. Thanks to everybody who's joined us tonight. A reminder, if you still haven't seen Queen of Hearts or some of all these fascinating projects we've been talking about, Google them to see where you can legally watch them, maybe on YouTube, I think, even, and iTunes. This series, Nordic Women in Film, continues next week. You can go to wifty.net, WIFTI.net. Next week's film is Hope. This is a beautiful Norwegian film that just got onto the Oscar shortlist yesterday. The talk is going to be about personal stories and how that works with big budgets. So it's going to be with Norwegian director Maria Sodhol. She's fascinating also because it's based on her true life, the film.
And
Such a beautiful film.
Great performance by both of them, but especially by Andrea.
Yeah, Andrea Bremen. Yeah.
He's fantastic.
Really great. She's going to be joined by Nina Tiberg, who just had this amazing film Pleasure in Sundance. Also, Danish director Malu Raymond from A Perfectly Normal Family, and American director Nisha Ganatra, and Kirsten Schaffer from Women in Film in LA is going to be moderating that one. So please join us again next week. You can go register at wifty.net. But a huge thank you to all the partners, but especially to our amazing women who've been so open and honest with us tonight. Thank you, everybody.